Hey, yeah, the time traveler in sweatpants. Ever wondered what personal hygiene looked like before soap commercials and luxury spas? Buckle up, because tonight we're heading to the flowing world of ancient Japan, where courtesans weren't just masters of seduction, but also of self-care. Forget what you think you know. These women had hygiene routines so refined, they'd put modern influencers to shame. From meticulous bath rituals to secret beauty ingredients and tooth-blackening traditions, this wasn't just about staying clean. It was about power, prestige, and survival. So hit that like button if you're into the grimy truths of history dressed in silk and incense. And let's dive into the surprisingly sophisticated world of ancient Japanese prostitutes. You wake before sunrise in 1750. And the first thing you do isn't pray or eat. It's scrub your body with rice bran until your skin burns red. You're a courtesan in Yoshiwara, Ito's licensed pleasure quarter. And your life depends on a cleanliness ritual so extreme that samurai warriors would consider it torture. Every morning, you kneel naked on tatami mats, methodically abrading every inch of your flesh with rough bran powder mixed with camellia oil, removing not just dirt but layers of skin itself. The other women around you perform the same ritual in perfect silence, their movements choreographed by centuries of tradition. This isn't vanity. This is survival in a world where one missed spot, one overlooked crevice, could mean death from disease or abandonment by clients who inspect your body like merchants. Examining silk, you understand something that won't be scientifically proven until the 1860s. Microscopic organisms can kill you, and only obsessive cleanliness can keep them at bay. Your fingernails are filed to precise points and scrubbed with bamboo brushes until they gleam like polished ivory. Between your toes, behind your ears, inside your mouth, every cavity is cleansed with solutions made from fermented rice wine and crushed mint leaves. The process takes 2 hours every morning, and by the time you finish, your skin glows with an almost supernatural luminescence that clients will pay fortunes to touch. But this ritual isn't just about attracting customers. You're unknowingly practicing medicine that's centuries ahead of its time, following hygiene protocols that would make modern surgeons nod in approval. The rice bran contains natural antiseptics. The camellia oil has antimicrobial properties. The mint kills bacteria that cause oral infections. You don't know the science, but you know the results. Women who follow these rituals live longer, suffer fewer diseases, and maintain their beauty far beyond what should be possible in an era when most people die before 30. The sun rises over Ito, casting long shadows across the quarter's narrow streets, but you're already prepared for a day that will test every aspect of your carefully maintained hygiene. What you don't yet realize is that this morning ritual is just the beginning of a cleanliness obsession so intense it will reshape how an entire civilization thinks about the human body. You descend into the bathhouse beneath your establishment, where steam rises from wooden tubs filled with water heated to temperatures that would scald ordinary citizens. This isn't the communal bathing that defines Japanese culture. This is something far more clinical, more desperate. You're about to perform the first of 7 baths you'll take today, each with a specific purpose that medical textbooks won't describe for another 2 centuries. The water contains ingredients that sound like witchcraft but work like medicine. Powdered volcanic ash from Mount Fuji to scrub away dead skin, fermented soybean paste to balance the natural oils, and crushed pearls that create an alkaline environment hostile to bacteria. You lower yourself slowly, feeling the mixture burn against cuts and scratches accumulated from the previous night's work. The pain is intentional. It means the solution is killing everything that shouldn't be living on your skin. Other women join you in adjacent tubs, their bodies bearing the telltale marks of their profession. Bruises disguised with white powder, scars hidden beneath elaborate tattoos, infections treated with herbal poultices that smell like death but prevent worse fates. You exchange knowing glances, but rarely speak during these sessions. The water is sacred, and conversation pollutes its purifying power. An older courtesan named Miyuki demonstrates the proper technique for cleansing intimate areas with rice paper, soaked in green tea extract. She survived in this profession for 15 years, a lifetime in Yoshiwara, and her methods are whispered about throughout the quarter. She uses tiny wooden instruments carved from hinoki cypress, naturally antibacterial, to reach places that hands cannot properly clean. The precision is surgical, the ritual religious. The truly disturbing part isn't the pain or the strange ingredients, it's the necessity. You know women who skipped these protocols, who thought their natural beauty was enough. They disappeared within months, claimed by diseases that have no names, that leave unmistakable signatures. Fever, bleeding, skin that rots from the inside out. The bathhouse isn't luxury. It's a fortress against microscopic invaders you can't see, but know are always trying to kill you. As you emerge from your second hour of bathing, skin-pruned and pink, you notice something that chills you to the bone. The water in the tub has turned a murky brown color, evidence of what you've washed away. You're holding a mirror made from polished bronze, examining teeth that gleam white as fresh snow despite living in an era when sugar is precious as gold and dental care consists of wooden picks and prayers. Your mouth contains a secret that separates successful courtesans from those who die forgotten in back alleys. A hygiene protocol so advanced that European nobility, with all their wealth and education, have black rotting stumps where teeth should be. Every morning after your bath ritual, you begin the tooth ceremony with powdered charcoal made from burned eggplant stems. The black powder seems counterintuitive. How can something so dark make teeth so white? But you understand through experience what dentists won't prove until the 1800s. Activated charcoal absorbs toxins and bacteria, preventing the decay that kills more people in your era than warfare or famine. You use a brush made from horsehair, attached to a bamboo handle, working the charcoal paste between every tooth with movements so precise they resemble meditation. The process takes 20 minutes, and by the end, your mouth feels clean in a way that borders on the spiritual, but you're not finished. Next comes the salt treatment. Coarse sea salt mixed with sake that burns your gums, but kills every harmful organism trying to establish colonies in your mouth. The truly revolutionary part comes next. Silk floss. While Europeans won't discover dental floss until the 1800s, you're using thread spun from silkworm cocoons to clean between your teeth, following techniques passed down through generations of courtesans who understood that oral hygiene meant survival. Bad breath doesn't just lose customers, it signals infections that can spread throughout your body and kill you within days. An older woman named Sakiko teaches you to identify the early signs of mouth disease. Small white spots on the tongue, swollen gums that bleed during cleaning, teeth that feel loose in their sockets. She shows you herbal treatments that won't be rediscovered by Western medicine for centuries. Clove oil for pain, myrrh for inflammation, green tea rinses that contain natural fluoride compounds. But as you perfect your dental routine, you notice something disturbing about the other women around you. Those who maintain these protocols keep their teeth for decades, smiling with confidence that attracts wealthy clients. Those who neglect them begin showing signs of systemic illness that starts in the mouth but spreads everywhere. You're wrapping your feet in silk bandages soaked with camphor oil, preparing for a night that will test every hygiene protocol you've learned. Your feet are your foundation, literally and figuratively, in a profession where standing for hours in uncomfortable positions while maintaining an appearance of effortless grace can mean the difference between wealth and starvation. But foot care in Yoshiwara isn't about comfort. It's about preventing infections that can travel up your legs and kill you. The silk isn't just luxury, it's medicine. Silk fibers naturally resist bacteria and fungus, creating a barrier between your skin and the wouldn't-get-a sandals that every courtesan must wear. The camphor oil serves dual purposes. It numbs the pain of walking on feet that have been bound and shaped since childhood. And it kills microorganisms that thrive in the warm, moist environment between toes. You examine each toe individually, checking for cuts, blisters, or discoloration that might signal the beginning of an infection. In your profession, even a small wound can become a death sentence if bacteria enters your bloodstream. You've seen women lose entire feet to gangrene that started with a single blister. Their bodies consumed by rot that spreads faster than fire through dry wood. The foot-binding tradition that defines feminine beauty in your era has created a unique medical challenge. How do you maintain hygiene on feet that have been deliberately deformed? The bones in your feet were broken when you were 5 years old, then bound tightly to create the tiny, lotus-shaped appendages that men find irresistible. But the process created permanent wounds, pockets where dead tissue collects and festers. If not properly maintained, every night you unwrap the bindings and clean each fold of skin with rice wine that burns like liquid fire. You remove dead tissue with small knives, trim ingrown nails that could pierce infected skin, and apply poultices made from herbs that won't be scientifically studied until the 20th century. The process is excruciating, but you know women who stop maintaining their feet. Their screams echo through the quarter at night as infections consume them from the ground up. As you rewrap your feet in fresh silk, you catch a reflection of yourself in the polished wood floor. Your feet look like precious jewels, but you know the terrible cost of this beauty. You're sitting in a wooden chair carved from a single piece of cedar, your head tilted back over a basin filled with water that has taken 3 hours to prepare. Your hair, the crown that can make or break a courtesan's career, requires a cleansing ritual so complex that it resembles alchemy more than personal hygiene. In an era when most people wash their hair monthly at best, you perform this ceremony every 3 days, following protocols that prevent not just dirt and oil buildup, but parasites that can literally eat your scalp. The water contains ingredients that sound like poetry, but function like medicine. Essence of camellia flowers to add shine, fermented rice water to strengthen each strand, and ground adzuki beans that exfoliate your scalp without damaging the delicate skin beneath. An assistant pours the mixture slowly through your hair, working it through with fingers trained to detect the earliest signs of lice, fleas, or fungal infections that could destroy months of careful cultivation. Your hair is your fortune, literally. The elaborate styles you create can take 8 hours to complete and must remain perfect for days at a time. But maintaining these complex arrangements while preventing disease requires techniques that wouldn't look out of place in a modern laboratory. You use fine-toothed combs made from tortoiseshell that naturally repel insects, and oils extracted from plants that contain compounds toxic to parasites but harmless to humans. The most disturbing part of the ritual comes when your assistant examines your scalp with a magnifying glass made from polished crystal. She's looking for signs of the scalp diseases that can end a courtesan's career overnight. Patches of hair loss, sores that won't heal, or the telltale red bumps that signal an infestation of blood-sucking mites. These conditions spread rapidly. In the close quarters of Yoshiwara, where women sleep side by side and share combs, brushes, and hair ornaments, an older courtesan named Hanako tells you about the Great Hair Plague of 1739, when a mysterious condition swept through the quarter, causing women's hair to fall out in clumps overnight. Those who survived did so because they followed extreme cleansing protocols that seemed excessive at the time but proved prophetic. She shows you scars on her scalp where infected hair follicles had to be burned out with hot irons to prevent the condition from spreading to her brain. As your assistant begins the final rinse, you notice something in the basin that makes your stomach turn. You're standing naked before a mirror that reflects a truth too disturbing to fully comprehend. Your skin, naturally olive-toned and healthy, is about to be covered with a white powder that contains enough lead to slowly poison you to death. The Oshiroi face powder that defines beauty in your era is literally killing the women who wear it. But refusing to use it means immediate social and economic death in a profession where appearance is everything. The powder application ritual takes 2 hours and requires the precision of a master painter. You begin with a base layer of whale oil mixed with rice bran, creating a smooth surface that will hold the deadly white pigment. Your assistant uses brushes made from cat fur to apply the Oshiroi in thin, even layers, building up a porcelain-like finish that obscures every natural flaw, but slowly accumulates toxic metals in your organs. The lead carbonate that gives the powder its perfect white color is gradually destroying your nervous system. Though you won't understand this for decades, the symptoms start subtly. Occasional headaches, mild confusion, a metallic taste in your mouth that you attribute to poor quality sake. But as years pass, the effects become more pronounced. Memory loss, paralysis in your extremities, and eventually, a form of madness that leaves once brilliant courtesans drooling and incoherent. You know, older women who have survived decades in the profession, and their faces tell a story of slow-motion catastrophe. Their skin has turned permanently pale, not from powder but from the lead poisoning that has destroyed their ability to produce natural pigments. They shake constantly, their hands trembling as they try to apply makeup to faces that have forgotten how to heal from the smallest cuts. The most disturbing aspect isn't the physical damage, it's the deliberate ignorance. Everyone knows the powder causes illness. The Chinese merchants who sell it include warnings written in characters that few courtesans can read. The symptoms are consistent and predictable, but the beauty standards of your society demand this slow suicide, and women choose death over the social extinction that comes with natural colored skin. As you examine your reflection, transformed into a ghostly white specter, you realize you're looking at a corpse that hasn't stopped breathing yet. But the customers are already lining up outside, and tonight's earnings depend on maintaining this beautiful lie. You're walking through a hidden garden behind your establishment, collecting plants that most people consider weeds, but you know are medicines capable of preventing diseases that kill thousands. This isn't recreational gardening, this is pharmaceutical cultivation practiced by women who understand botanical chemistry centuries before it becomes a formal science. Every leaf, root, and flower in this carefully tended space contains compounds that can save your life or end it, depending on how they're prepared and applied. The garden is arranged according to principles that won't be codified until the development of modern pharmacology. Antiseptic plants near the entrance, anti-inflammatory herbs in the center, and the truly dangerous specimens, the ones that can induce abortions or kill unwanted clients, hidden in the shadows at the back. You know which mushrooms prevent infections, which tree barks reduce fever, and which flower petals can stop bleeding when applied correctly. Your teacher in these matters is an ancient woman named Yum, whose knowledge comes from generations of courtesans who survived by understanding that their bodies were both battlefield and temple. She shows you how to prepare poultices from plantain leaves that draw infection from wounds, how to brew teas from willow bark that reduce pain and inflammation, and how to create suppositories from herbs that prevent pregnancies without killing the mother. The most valuable plants are the ones that prevent sexually transmitted diseases. You learn to identify the early symptoms of syphilis, gonorrhea, and other infections that sweep through Yoshiwara like wildfire, claiming women faster than plague. The treatments sound like folklore, but work like medicine. Mercury-based salves that burn away infected tissue, plant-based douches that create hostile environments for bacteria, and oral medications that boost the body's natural defenses. But the garden holds darker secrets as well. Yum shows you the plants that can end a life quietly, herbs that cause heart failure, mushrooms that induce brain hemorrhages, and flowers whose pollen can trigger fatal allergic reactions. These aren't for murder, she explains, but for mercy, when disease or injury makes life unbearable. When age robs a woman of her ability to earn money, when clients become too violent to survive, these plants offer a final exit as you collect. The day's harvest, you notice that some of the other women are growing different plants, ones you don't recognize. When you ask about them, Yoon's expression grows dark. You're lying on a wooden table while an elderly woman inserts thin silver needles into specific points on your body, following a medical practice that treats your flesh like a map of invisible energy highways. This isn't torture, this is acupuncture, combined with controlled bloodletting, designed to maintain the delicate balance of health required for survival in your profession. The woman performing the procedure has been treating courtesans for 40 years, and her hands move with the confidence of someone who understands that your body is both your livelihood and your tomb. The needles target pressure points that correspond to organs under stress from your lifestyle. Liver points to help process the alcohol you consume nightly. Kidney points to filter the toxins from medications and cosmetics, and reproductive points to maintain fertility while preventing unwanted pregnancies. But this isn't the gentle acupuncture that will become popular in modern wellness centers. This is aggressive medical intervention that leaves you bleeding from dozens of tiny wounds. The bloodletting component involves controlled cuts made with obsidian blades sharper than modern surgical instruments. Small amounts of blood are drawn from specific locations to relieve pressure, remove toxins, and rebalance what practitioners call your body's humoral equilibrium. The blood is collected in ceramic bowls and examined for color, consistency, and smell diagnostic techniques that reveal information about your internal health that won't be medically understood for centuries. Your practitioner, Madame Kiku, explains that different types of blood indicate different problems. Dark, thick blood suggests liver congestion from alcohol and lead poisoning. Pale, thin blood indicates anemia from poor nutrition and excessive menstrual bleeding. Blood that smells sweet warns of the sugar disease that makes wounds heal slowly and infections spread rapidly. She adjusts the treatment based on these observations, adding herbs to your diet and changing your bathing rituals accordingly. The most disturbing aspect of the procedure is its necessity. Women who skip these monthly treatments develop symptoms that modern medicine would recognize as organ failure, swollen ankles from kidney problems, yellowed skin from liver damage, and internal bleeding from stress-related ulcers. The needles and bloodletting aren't luxury treatments. They're life support systems for bodies pushed beyond their natural limits. As the session ends and you examine the tiny wounds covering your skin, you realize that you're literally bleeding to stay alive. But Madame Kiku's expression suggests that even these extreme measures might not be enough to counter what your profession is doing to your body. You're examining a silk kimono under candlelight, checking every thread for signs of contamination that could spread disease from client to client. Your clothing isn't just fashion. It's a complex medical system designed to create barriers between your body and the pathogens that kill courtesans faster than violence or old age. But maintaining these textile defenses requires knowledge that combines chemistry, biology, and engineering in ways that won't be formally understood until the development of modern infection control. The silk itself possesses natural antimicrobial properties that make it superior to cotton or hemp for your profession. Silk fibers contain proteins that inhibit bacterial growth, and the smooth surface prevents microorganisms from establishing colonies in fabric pockets. But these natural defenses are compromised by the dyes, oils, and cosmetics that stain your clothing during work, creating breeding grounds for infections that can spread through skin contact. Every garment must be cleaned using techniques that sound like alchemy but function like modern sterilization. You soak stained silk in solutions made from fermented urine, which contains ammonia, volcanic ash, which provides alkaline cleaning power, and crushed bones, which add phosphates that break down proteins. The process takes days and requires constant monitoring to prevent the delicate fibers from dissolving in the harsh chemicals. Your wardrobe contains over 50 different garments, each designed for specific types of encounters that pose different contamination risks. Lightweight silk for clients who sweat excessively, thick brocade for those with skin conditions, and specially treated fabric for encounters that involve bodily fluids. The color coding isn't just aesthetic. Different dyes contain different antimicrobial compounds that provide targeted protection against specific types of infections. The most expensive items in your collection are the undergarments made from silk that has been pre-treated with mercury compounds. These provide maximum protection against sexually transmitted diseases, but the mercury slowly accumulates in your body, causing the same neurological damage as your face powder. You're trapped between immediate infection and long-term poisoning, choosing death by mercury over death by disease. As you fold a completed cleaning cycle, you notice that some of the silk threads are breaking down, creating microscopic holes that could allow pathogens to reach your skin. The realization fills you with dread. Your honor is dissolving. You're mixing essences in glass vials imported from Dutch traders, creating scent combinations that serve dual purposes, attracting clients while repelling the insects that carry deadly diseases through Yoshiwara's crowded streets. Your perfume isn't just about smelling pleasant. It's a chemical warfare system designed to create an invisible barrier around your body that keeps mosquitoes, fleas, and other disease vectors at a safe distance while you work. The base ingredients sound exotic but function like medicine. Sandalwood oil that naturally repels insects, jasmine essence that masks the smell of medicinal treatments, and musk from Chinese deer that triggers chemical reactions in human brains associated with sexual attraction. But the truly effective components are the ones that smell terrible in pure form. Camphor that drives away biting insects, sulfur compounds that prevent fungal infections, and plant-based alkaloids that are toxic to parasites. Your perfume master, an ancient Chinese woman named Li Wei, teaches you to adjust formulations based on seasonal disease patterns. Summer perfumes contain higher concentrations of insect repellents to prevent malaria and yellow fever. Winter formulations focus on antimicrobial compounds that prevent respiratory infections in crowded spaces. Spring and fall require balanced approaches that address both insect-borne and human-transmitted diseases. The application process follows strict protocols that ensure even coverage while avoiding toxic concentrations in any single area. You apply different scent combinations to different body parts. Floral essences on exposed skin where clients will smell them. Medicinal compounds on hidden areas where insects might bite. And the most powerful repellents on clothing and hair where they won't come into direct contact with sensitive tissues. But the perfume system has deadly flaws, the oils that repel. Insects also attract certain types of clients who associate exotic scents with expensive women. Some of these men carry diseases that no amount of perfume can prevent, and their willingness to pay premium prices for scented encounters creates economic pressure to accept dangerous customers. As you complete your daily perfume ritual, you notice that the newest girl in your establishment isn't following the protocols correctly. Her scent is too sweet, too floral, without the bitter undertones that provide medical protection. You want to warn her, but you know she won't understand until it's too late. You're emptying your chamber pot into a collection system that represents one of the most advanced waste management technologies in the world, yet still exposes you to diseases that kill more courtesans than violence or suicide combined. The toilet arrangements in Yoshiwara aren't just about sanitation. They're about preventing the spread of cholera, dysentery, and other waterborne illnesses that can sweep through the quarter's dense population in days, leaving hundreds dead and the survivors fighting over scraps in a devastated economy. The collection system routes waste through underground, Channels lined with stone and sealed with natural bitumen to prevent contamination of groundwater. But the technology isn't perfect, and leaks allow sewage to seep into the foundations of buildings, creating breeding grounds for disease carrying insects and contaminating the air with microscopic pathogens that cause respiratory infections. Your chamber pot is made from glazed ceramic that can be sterilized with boiling water, and you clean it twice daily with solutions made from lye and crushed lime that kill most harmful organisms. But the cleaning process itself poses risks. The lye can burn your skin and lungs. The lime dust causes breathing problems, and the contaminated cleaning water must be disposed of carefully to prevent spreading disease to other women. The most disturbing aspect of waste management in your profession is the need to monitor your own excretions for signs of illness. Color, consistency, smell, and frequency of bowel movements provide early warning signs of diseases that can kill you within days if left untreated. Blood in stool indicates internal bleeding from ulcers or infections. Pale or clay-colored waste suggests liver problems from alcohol and lead poisoning. Loose, frequent stools warn of cholera or other potentially fatal intestinal diseases. An older courtesan named Tama teaches you to prepare herbal treatments based on what you observe in your waste. Different types of diarrhea require different plant-based medicines. Astringent herbs for bacterial infections, soothing oils for inflammatory conditions, and antimicrobial compounds for parasitic invasions. She also shows you which symptoms require immediate medical attention and which can be treated with dietary changes and rest. As you complete your evening waste management routine, you notice something in your chamber pot that makes your blood run cold. You're preparing a tea made from ingredients that could save your life or end it, depending on the precise measurements and timing of consumption. Pregnancy prevention in your profession isn't just about avoiding unwanted children. It's about survival in a world where carrying a baby to term means 9 months without income, followed by the choice between abandoning your child or watching them grow up, knowing their mother sells her body to survive. The herbal contraceptives you use are based on knowledge passed down through generations of women who understood plant chemistry centuries before it became a formal science. You brew teas from pennyroyal that prevent implantation of fertilized eggs, consume seeds from wild carrot that disrupt hormone cycles, and use suppositories made from silphium that create hostile environments for sperm. But these plants are poisons that work by disrupting normal cellular functions. And the line between preventing pregnancy and causing organ failure is measured in milligrams. Your contraception teacher, an ancient woman known only as Grandmother Moon, shows you how to track your menstrual cycle using lunar calendars and body temperature measurements. She teaches you to identify the fertile days when pregnancy is most likely, the safe periods when you can work without chemical protection, and the danger signs that indicate your prevention methods are failing or causing internal damage. The most reliable contraceptive methods are also the most dangerous. Mercury-based pessaries prevent pregnancy with near-perfect effectiveness, but accumulate in your organs and cause neurological damage over time. Lead-lined cervical caps create physical barriers to sperm, but slowly poison your bloodstream. Plant-based abortifacients can terminate early pregnancies, but frequently cause hemorrhaging that kills the mother along with the fetus. Some women choose sterilization procedures that permanently prevent pregnancy, but often result in infections that cause death within weeks. Others rely on timing and withdrawal methods that preserve their health but result in unwanted pregnancies that must be terminated using increasingly dangerous techniques as the fetus develops. As you drink your bitter contraceptive tea, calculating dosages that could mean the difference between prevention and poisoning, you wonder if there might be pregnancies happening in the quarter right now that will force women to make choices far worse than the ones you face. You're examining another courtesan's body by lamplight, looking for symptoms of the diseases that spread through Yoshiwara like whispered secrets. claiming women faster than age or violence ever could. This isn't medical practice. It's survival. Intelligence, the early warning system that allows you to identify and isolate infections before they spread through the close quarters, where you live and work. The woman lying before you shows signs of the French disease syphilis that arrived in Japan 50 years ago and has been quietly destroying lives ever since. The first symptom is a small, painless sore that appears and disappears so quickly that many women miss it entirely. But you've been trained to recognize the subtle indicators: a faint rash on the palms, slightly swollen lymph nodes, and a particular pallor that suggests the infection has entered the bloodstream. Your diagnostic techniques combine observation, interrogation, and testing methods that won't be formalized by medical science for centuries. You examine skin color and texture under different types of light, feeling for temperature variations that indicate inflammation. You ask specific questions about symptoms that patients might not connect to disease: headaches, joint pain, changes in vision or hearing, and alterations in mental state that suggest brain involvement. The testing methods are crude but effective. You use mercury compounds that cause infected tissues to react differently than healthy ones, observing color changes and swelling patterns that reveal the presence and progression of various diseases. You examine bodily fluids under magnifying glasses, looking for abnormal textures, colors, and smells that indicate specific types of infections. But the most disturbing aspect of your disease detection work is the knowledge that comes with it. You can identify syphilis, gonorrhea, and other sexually transmitted diseases in their early stages. But the treatments available are often worse than the diseases themselves. Mercury poisoning, arsenic compounds, and plant-based medicines that destroy healthy tissue along with infected areas. Many women choose to hide their symptoms rather than endure cures that leave them disfigured or dead. As you complete your examination and deliver your diagnosis, you realize that this woman's infection represents a mathematical certainty. Within 6 months, at least 10 other women in the quarter will show similar symptoms. You're holding instruments that look like torture devices, but function as surgical tools, preparing to perform a procedure that could save a woman's life or end it within minutes. Surgery in Yoshiwara isn't performed by trained doctors. It's practiced by courtesans who have learned to cut into human flesh out of necessity, treating conditions that would be fatal without immediate intervention, but are still usually fatal even with it. The patient before you has a breast infection that has progressed beyond what herbal medicines can treat. The affected tissue is turning black, spreading toxins through her bloodstream that will kill her within days if not removed immediately. But the surgery required to save her life involves cutting away infected flesh without anesthesia, using knives that have been sharpened on whetstones and sterilized with flame, but still carry microscopic bacteria that could cause new infections. Your surgical kit contains tools that represent centuries of evolution in understanding how to cut human bodies. Obsidian blades sharper than modern scalpels, bronze forceps for gripping tissue, silk threads for closing wounds, and cauterizing irons for stopping bleeding. But the most important tool is your knowledge of anatomy, learned through years of examining bodies, both living and dead, understanding which cuts heal and which ones kill. The procedure must be performed quickly to minimize blood loss and prevent the patient from dying of shock. You work by candlelight, following guidelines passed down through generations of women who learned surgery by practicing on themselves and each other. The infected tissue comes away in chunks, revealing healthy flesh beneath. But the patient's screams indicate that you're cutting dangerously close to vital structures. Wound care after surgery requires techniques that combine multiple medical traditions: Chinese herbal poultices to prevent infection, Dutch bandaging methods to control bleeding, and Japanese spiritual practices to help the patient's body accept the traumatic changes. The recovery process takes weeks, during which the patient cannot work, cannot earn money and may still die from complications that develop despite successful surgery. As you complete the procedure and examine the infected tissue you've removed, you realize that 3 other women in the establishment are showing early signs of similar infections. You're watching a woman who was once the most sought-after courtesan in Yoshiwara stumble through her daily routine, her hands shaking uncontrollably as mercury poisoning destroys her nervous system one neuron at a time. She's been using lead-based cosmetics and mercury-based medicines for 15 years, and now the accumulated toxins are claiming their payment in the form of madness, paralysis, and eventual death. Her symptoms started subtly slight tremors in her hands, occasional confusion, a metallic taste in her mouth that never went away. But mercury is patient and thorough in its destruction. As months passed, the tremors spread to her entire body. Her memory began failing, and her personality changed from charming and witty to paranoid and aggressive. Now she can barely hold a cup without spilling, can't remember clients' names from one day to the next, and sometimes screams about invisible insects crawling under her skin. The truly horrifying aspect of mercury poisoning is its inevitability. Every courtesan in Yoshiwara uses mercury-based treatments for sexually transmitted diseases, mercury-enhanced cosmetics for perfect white skin, and mercury-preserved medicines for various ailments. The substance is considered miraculous. It prevents infections, creates beautiful complexions, and treats conditions that would otherwise be fatal. But it also accumulates in brain tissue, where it slowly destroys the cells responsible for coordination, memory, and sanity. You examine your own hands for signs of the tremors that mark the beginning of mercury madness. Your fingers are steady now, but you know that every day you use the cosmetics and medicines essential to your profession. You're adding to the toxic load that will eventually claim your mind and body. The mathematics are simple and terrifying. Mercury poisoning is the price of success in your profession, and success is the only alternative to starvation. Other women in the establishment are showing various stages of the progression. Some have developed the characteristic black gums that indicate severe mercury exposure. Others show signs of kidney damage from lead and mercury combinations. A few have developed the bizarre psychiatric symptoms that make them dangerous to themselves and others. Hallucinations, violent outbursts, and paranoid delusions that clients are trying to poison them. As you watch the once beautiful woman struggle to apply makeup with hands that won't stop shaking, you wonder how much time you have before you join her in this particular form of living hell. You're preparing instruments and medicines for a procedure that must be performed in absolute secrecy, knowing that discovery could mean death for everyone involved. Abortion in Yoshiwara exists in a shadow world of whispered instructions and dangerous techniques, practiced by women who understand that pregnancy means economic disaster, but termination means risking everything on procedures that kill patients as often as they save them. The woman seeking the procedure is 3 months pregnant, which means the standard herbal abortifacients are no longer safe or effective. She needs surgical intervention that involves inserting instruments into her cervix to break the amniotic sac and induce contractions that will expel the fetus. But the tools available: sharpened bamboo, metal rods heated over flames, and caustic chemicals that burn through tissue, are as likely to cause fatal infections or hemorrhaging as they are to end the pregnancy successfully. Your abortion specialist is an ancient woman known as Shadow Mother, who learned her techniques from Chinese practitioners and has been terminating pregnancies for 40 years. She works by candlelight in hidden rooms, using instruments that she makes herself and techniques that are passed down through whispered conversations between women who understand that this knowledge could save their lives or end them. The procedure begins with herbs that soften the cervix and make it easier to insert instruments without tearing. But these same herbs can cause uncontrollable bleeding if the dosage is slightly wrong, and there's no way to predict how individual bodies will react to the treatment. Shadow Mother works with practiced efficiency, but her hand shakes slightly not from nervousness, but from the mercury poisoning that affects all women who survive long enough in this profession. She inserts a thin bamboo rod that has been carved to precise dimensions and sterilized with sock, guiding it through the cervical opening while monitoring the patient's breathing and color for signs of shock or internal injury. The most dangerous moment comes when the amniotic sac ruptures. If the fetus and placenta are expelled completely, the patient has a reasonable chance of survival. But if any tissue remains inside the uterus, infection is almost inevitable, and the resulting fever and blood poisoning kill more women than the procedure itself. Shadow Mother uses her fingers to feel for retained tissue, a process that requires extraordinary skill to avoid puncturing the uterine wall. As the procedure concludes, you realize that this woman's survival depends entirely on factors beyond human control. Whether her body can fight off the infections introduced by unsterile instruments, whether the herbs will cause fatal bleeding, and whether she can recover without medical care that doesn't exist for women in her situation. The aftermath requires weeks of careful monitoring. The patient must continue working to pay for food and shelter, but physical exertion increases the risk of hemorrhaging. She must maintain the hygiene protocols that prevent external infections. But the internal trauma makes her vulnerable to diseases that her usual precautions cannot prevent. Most disturbing of all, she must hide her condition from clients who might become violent if they discover what has been done. As you clean the instruments and prepare them for the next woman who will need this service, you understand that you're maintaining tools for a form of medicine that exists only because society has created conditions where pregnancy equals death by starvation. You're collecting the deadliest plants in your hidden garden, preparing medicines that will either cure diseases that conventional treatments cannot touch, or kill you with dosages that differ by fractions of a gram. The plants you're harvesting tonight: foxglove for heart conditions, belladonna for pain relief, and hemlock for infections that won't respond to gentler treatments, represent the final option for women whose bodies are failing despite every other medical intervention. You know, the foxglove contains digitalis compounds that can regulate irregular heartbeats caused by mercury poisoning, but the therapeutic dose and the lethal dose are separated by measurements too small to see with naked eyes. You prepare the extract by counting individual leaves, measuring water temperature with your finger, and timing the brewing process by reciting specific prayers that take exactly the right amount of time when spoken at the proper pace. Belladonna offers relief from the chronic pain that accompanies advanced stages of sexually transmitted diseases, but it also causes hallucinations, seizures, and respiratory failure if the concentration is slightly too high. The plant's name means beautiful woman because Renaissance ladies used it to dilate their pupils for cosmetic effect. But you're using it for medical purposes that require precision impossible to achieve with the tools available in your era. An older courtesan named Yukiko teaches you to identify the subtle signs that indicate when conventional treatments have failed and poison medicine becomes the only option. Certain types of pain that don't respond to opium, fevers that continue despite every herbal remedy, and infections that spread despite mercury treatments all signal the need for substances that work by disrupting cellular processes so fundamentally that they can either restore health or destroy it completely. The preparation ritual takes place at midnight, when the concentration of active compounds in the plants is highest and the risk of contamination from other medicines is lowest. You work by moonlight, using silver knives that don't react with plant alkaloids and ceramic vessels that won't absorb toxic residues. Every movement must be precise because a single mistake could create a dose that kills instead of cures. But as you complete your harvest and begin the delicate process of extraction and concentration, you notice that some of the plants are showing signs of disease, fungal infections that could make your medicines even more unpredictable and dangerous. You're preparing for what you know will be your last cleansing ritual, not because you're dying tonight, but because your body has reached the point where even the most advanced hygiene protocols cannot prevent the inevitable progression of diseases that have been accumulating for years. At 28 years old, ancient by courtesan standards, you're experiencing symptoms that indicate multiple organ systems are beginning to fail simultaneously. The bathwater tonight contains every therapeutic ingredient you've learned to use over your career. Volcanic ash for skin conditions, fermented herbs for infections, medicinal salts for inflammation, and plant extracts that provide temporary relief from the constant pain that has become your companion. But you understand that these treatments are no longer healing you. They're simply making your decline more comfortable. Your reflection in the water shows the accumulated damage of your profession with brutal clarity. Your skin has the permanent pallor of chronic lead poisoning, punctuated by dark spots where mercury has collected in subcutaneous tissue. Your hands shake with the tremors that mark advanced heavy metal toxicity, and your eyes have the yellowish tinge that indicates liver damage from years of processing alcohol and toxic cosmetics. The most disturbing changes are the ones you cannot see. Your memory has become unreliable, with entire days disappearing from your recollection and familiar faces becoming unrecognizable. Your kidneys are struggling to filter the accumulated toxins from your bloodstream, causing swelling in your ankles and abdomen that makes movement increasingly difficult. Your reproductive system has been so damaged by infections, treatments, and prevention methods that you haven't menstruated in over a year. Other women have followed this same trajectory, brilliance and beauty slowly consumed by the very practices that made success possible. You think of Miyuki, who taught you bathing techniques and died screaming from kidney failure at 30, of Sachiko, whose dental hygiene was perfect, but who lost her mind to mercury madness at 25. Of Shadow Mother, who saved so many women from unwanted pregnancies, but died from an infection caused by her own instruments. As you emerge from your final therapeutic bath, you realize that your death will be slow, painful, and inevitable, but it will also be cleaner than that of any other woman of your era. The hygiene protocols that are killing you have also protected you from the quick deaths that claim most people in your world. Plague, cholera, infection, and accident. You're dying of medicine rather than disease. And in your era, that represents a form of luxury. You're applying makeup for what may be your final performance, knowing that your client tonight has specifically requested an older courtesan because he's heard that experience brings wisdom that younger women cannot provide. But you understand that he's actually purchasing something far more disturbing, the opportunity to possess a woman whose body represents the accumulated knowledge of centuries of medical experimentation performed on disposable lives. Your hands shake as you apply the lead-based powder that has been slowly poisoning you for over a decade. But the tremors are no longer just from mercury toxicity. They're from the knowledge that tonight's client is a physician who collects dying courtesans the way other men collect butterflies or flowers. He pays premium prices to examine bodies that have been subjected to medical treatments unavailable anywhere else in the world. Studying the effects of long-term exposure to substances that kill too quickly in higher doses to be scientifically useful. The mirror reflects a face that has become a medical textbook written in scar tissue and discoloration. Every mark tells a story of treatments that push the boundaries of human survival. The permanent indentations where mercury injections were administered. The subtle facial paralysis caused by lead-based cosmetics and the skin discoloration that maps the progression of various diseases through your body over time. Tonight's encounter will be different from the sexual transactions that defined your career. This client wants to document your symptoms, measure the progression of your various conditions, and understand how your body has managed to survive. Treatments that killed other women within months. You're no longer selling pleasure. You're selling medical data gathered through a lifetime of self-experimentation that that no ethical physician could ever conduct. The truly disturbing realization is that your death will contribute to medical knowledge that could save future lives. The physician-client keeps detailed records of every dying courtesan he examines, documenting the effects of different treatments and the progression of various diseases. This information will eventually become part of the medical understanding that prevents future generations from repeating the same toxic mistakes. As you prepare to meet your final client, you understand that your life has been both a tragedy and a scientific experiment, and your death will be both an ending and a contribution to knowledge that will outlive you by centuries. You're lying on a futon as dawn breaks over Yoshiwara for the last time in your life, and through your fever-clouded vision, you can see younger women beginning their morning hygiene rituals with the same obsessive precision that you've practiced for over a decade. They scrub their skin with rice bran, examine their bodies for signs of disease, and apply the same toxic cosmetics that are now killing you, following protocols that will preserve their lives just long enough to destroy them completely. The irony of your situation becomes clear as your consciousness fades. The hygiene practices that courtesans perfected in Yoshiwara were centuries ahead of their time in understanding disease prevention. But they were also centuries behind in understanding the toxicity of the materials they used. You prevented infections that killed thousands of other women, but the mercury and lead that made prevention possible have claimed your life just as surely as any plague. Your medical legacy will survive you in ways that seem almost miraculous from your dying perspective. The antiseptic techniques you learned will eventually evolve into modern surgical protocols. The plant-based medicines you used will become the foundation for pharmaceutical chemistry. The diagnostic methods you practiced will develop into clinical medicine. Even your understanding of sexually transmitted diseases will contribute to treatments that save millions of lives. But the human cost of this medical advancement is measured in the bodies of women like you, disposable lives that society used as experimental subjects in the development of medical knowledge that it was unwilling to test on people who mattered. Your death represents both the success and the failure of a civilization that created advanced medical techniques by practicing them on women who had no choice but to submit to increasingly dangerous treatments. As your breathing becomes shallower and your vision dims, you can hear the sounds of Yoshiwara awakening to another day. Water being heated for baths, herbs being ground for medicines, and young voices reciting the hygiene protocols that will keep them alive just long enough to experience the same death you're dying now. The ultimate irony is that your obsession with cleanliness, pursued with a dedication that bordered on the religious, has given you the cleanest death possible in your era. You're dying in a bed that's changed daily, wearing silk that's washed, with antimicrobial solutions, surrounded by air that's purified with antiseptic herbs. Your body is failing, but it's failing cleanly, and in 1750s Japan, that represents a form of privilege that few people will ever experience. Your final thought is a realization that won't be scientifically proven for another century. The difference between medicine and poison is measured in dosage, and the difference between life and death is measured in the accumulation of choices that seem individually rational but collectively suicidal. You've lived the cleanest life possible in your era, and it has killed you more surely than any disease.